Ray rubbing tyres with one another. How many times we've seen them side by side, bar to bar, all the way through this season. All it takes is a slight misjudgment, or one rider leaning into the other a little bit more, and suddenly you can be on the deck. So for Toprak, that's probably the biggest factor over the course of this weekend. Is he going to change his riding and his race style? I don't think so. That's not how Toprak is. But we could easily have an incident between those two riders, because we've seen so much close action between them all the way through this season.
He changed his approach to the only 10th position in the last race of the season.
I think if it comes down to Sunday, he can change his approach, but it's going to be tough for Toprak to do that. He's very adamant. He wants to stick to his guns and win the championship the way that he's been riding all the way through this season. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches it, especially on Sunday.
To be perfectly honest, if we do get into a situation of Toprak Razgatlioglu racing for race victories throughout this weekend, we wouldn't be surprised, and it would certainly not be something that would go against the grain, as it were. He's never pulled his punches throughout his World SBK career, and certainly not this season.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where for Toprak, he knows how he's managed to get into this position, and he knows that on his day he's pretty much unbeatable, and I think he wants to make sure that this weekend he lays down a marker and shows that that's exactly what he's going to expect all the way through.
If anything, he's added an extra level to that since Assen in particular, a weekend where he was caught in the garage saying that's it, the championship's over. It was almost as if at that moment he said, well, from here on in, nothing to lose, because the championship in his mind, well, okay, in the heat of the moment, looked like it was slipping away from him. Jonathan Ray, 3 wins in a row. Toprak, a massive margin of points to recover. Twice he's managed to recover points and get back into the lead of this World Championship, and it's a lead that at the moment he doesn't look like surrendering.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where Toprak will look at the points that have gone amiss for him from a bit of bad luck. Jonathan Ray will look at the points that have gone away from him, and more often than not for Jonathan, it's been because of his own mistakes. He's had to ride on the limit, and we saw in places like Lost and Donington Park and Portimao, we got caught out by that. And those 30 points added up very quickly for him. And over the course of the year, the two riders have been very evenly matched. But you'd have to say, on the balance of how the season's gone, Toprak very much deserves to go into the championship decider with a pretty sizable advantage.
Those 2 retirements in Portimao in particular, very, very costly, both from front-running positions, of course. Earlier in the season, we mentioned Donington Park, race 2, race 1 in Lost, all of those costly in terms of points. Ironically, this has been the one season where Jonathan Ray's typical strategy of just banking podiums would have left him there or thereabouts getting into this final round with Toprak Razgatlioglu. Precisely this season that Ray's mistakes have crept in for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, but the same can be said for Toprak as well. He's left as many points on the table as Jonathan Ray, and he's done it by his misfortune. Obviously, some of them being mechanical issues, and you have to accept that whenever you're racing as part of a team. But I think for Jonathan Ray, obviously, he'll look at this as being a championship that he's lost an awful lot of points coming into the final round. But now it's up to him just to be able to focus up, trying to put some pressure on Toprak this weekend and see what happens.
Toprak's on a mission at the moment, isn't he? 1:37.337 for Toprak last time around. Jonathan Ray second fastest on the timesheets at the moment and over a second behind. So Toprak, the usual style of Toprak Razgatlioglu making his way into the heaviest braking zone on the circuit in towards turn 1.
Yeah, Toprak doing Toprak things there in the run into T1, and he's got a 1.3 second advantage at this stage, which, you know, you'd have to look at it and think that everyone else is building themselves up a little bit slower than Toprak, but certainly for Razgatlioglu, he's feeling confident right now and wants to make sure that he's able to use all of his track time to get something to show for it.
Yes, absolutely. The faster you go right from the start, the less there is to find, although Toprak's managed to find another quarter of a second on his latest lap around, so he's not shy, that's for sure, at the start on a new circuit.
No, and what's interesting is there's a few other riders that have been able to set some pretty decent times at the start of this session. Isaac Viñales on the number 32 Kawasaki, and Axel Bassani on the Ducati as well, moved up inside the top 5 at this stage. We're only a couple of laps in, but you can see for Viñales, he's going to be keen to maintain the form that he showed last time out in Argentina, because Portimao in Argentina, he made a big step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. First top 10 finish in Portimao. He then qualified in 11th for the Argentinian round, which was a solid display. So certainly a little bit closer towards the sharp end, towards the top 10. Isaac Vinales, top 10, not easy to break into in World SBK in 2021, such as the depth of field and such as the number of factory rides now.
Yeah, I was talking to a few riders about it actually, and especially in the Super Bowl race where you have to finish inside the top 9 to score points, give yourself a good grid position for race 2. And a lot of riders said, you know what, it's hard to score points in that race now. Whenever we first introduced it, it was quite easy for the top riders, the factory riders, to be able to score their points. But now you look at it and you see the likes of Bassani there, the number 47 Ducati. He sprung a lot of surprises through the course of this season. You've obviously got all of your factory bikes from Ducati, Yamaha, Kawasaki, all very competitive. Honda being able to get some good results as well. So it is really difficult to try and get yourself into those top 10 positions now.
Yes, last season we had a habit of talking about the regular top 6. This season, to be perfectly honest, we've had a regular top 10 or so of riders. Toprak still steaming on, still over a second faster than anyone else has been able to go in this free practice 1 so far. Remember the first session at this Mandalika International Circuit in Indonesia, 136.543 for Razgat Lioglu, and a high 1 minute 37 for Michael Ruben Rinaldi. 2 Ducatis second and third positions at the moment, having moved past Jonathan Ray. So Razgat Lioglu getting his pace down very quickly. That's another similar lap from him last time around.
Yeah, down into those 1 minute 36s for Toprak now, and see there may be an issue for Alvaro Bautista, and we'll see if he's able just to get himself back to the pits at this stage. And certainly for Honda, there was some big news during the gap between Argentina and this weekend with the confirmation of their rider lineup for next year.
Sika Lecuona and Xavi Vierge will join HRC for 2022 on.
Ada SMS masuk bos, silahkan dilihat.
Bautista departing, frankly, because he wanted to move back to Ducati machinery, on which he was so successful in the 2019 campaign, of course, with that run of victories at the start of the season in particular. And looks like Leon Haslam, although he appeared keen to stay, was not the first choice. Very different philosophy for HRC at the moment, to try and pull riders across from the MotoGP paddock in a hope of giving themselves an elusive world championship.
Yeah, I was asking Leon Camio about that, the team manager, and he said that they are making that change in philosophy for next year.
Ada SMS masuk bos, silahkan dilihat.
Has brought that package quite a bit forward, but now they want to try and make that next step, and making that change of riders. I was asking him, as a rider, because obviously Leon Camio, one of the most experienced riders we ever had in World SBK, so asking him, as a rider, how is that to make that change? How is it to make that transition? And Camio said, a bike's a bike, and you've got to be able to figure out how to get the most from it. Obviously, learning the Pirellis is going to be a bit of a struggle for them, but that's going to be the big task. And what we've seen from the likes of Andrew, we got a crasher there, and it looks like it's Oliver Koenig that's gone down.
So, making his debut this weekend in World SBK, Koenig, with just over 30 minutes remaining in free practice 1. It is Koenig who has gone down just on the exit of one of the chicanes by the looks of things.
Yeah, you can see Oliver there. He's in what looks like Cresson's leathers, but certainly it is Oliver that's gone down. He does actually have some superbike experience. He raced in the Endurance World Championship at Most at the season closing round this year, and actually was pretty competitive on it. But you can see there, just gets a bit of a kick from the bike there as it comes to a halt. That's through turn 3, so right at the start of the lap, that little bit of a flip-flop.
Yes, so we were quite rightly cautious there, trying to ascertain whether the number and the name didn't quite match up when we called it. Oliver Koenig then going down. World SBK debut, as we've said, this weekend. And as you said, Steve, as well, looks on paper like a very big step, doesn't it, to go straight from Supersport 300 into World SBK. And he may well find that's the case as well, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real tough task for him all the way through this weekend. There can't really be any level of expectation on Oliver, and his big issue is now going to be trying to get back to the pits, see if he can get that bike back out at the end of this session, because losing a half an hour of track time is really bad for any rider over the course of a race weekend. But if this is the first time you've been on a World SBK machine, it's even more important for Koenig just to be able to get himself back out there.
Just a quick word, Loris Cresson, of course, suffering injuries earlier on in this campaign. Just over 30 minutes remaining in this free practice 1, and it's Toprak Razgat Lioglu who leads the way by 0.8 of a second ahead of Michael Ruben Rinaldi. Jonathan Ray, third fastest, so the gap has come down between Razgat Lioglu and
yeah, it's going to come right down now as well, with Rinaldi on a very fast last lap here as well. So Toprak's time at 36.5. He's got 0.8 of a second in hand on Rinaldi, but as you'd expect from the Italian, he's going to get faster and faster through the course of this session. This looks like it's going to be right up there as well. Lose a lot of time in that final sector though.
Up at the halfway mark of his latest lap, so as you say, just that final sector which features the slowest corner on the circuit. I suspect that could be a place for a penultimate bend lunge, not the last bend lunge, but a penultimate bend lunge in towards turn 60.
Yeah, and certainly we're going to see it all the way through this weekend. I think it's close. That's what I'm going to try and make it through the last lap, because he can really barge down the inside and make that block pass.
Some defending track particularly.